Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the history segment. The obscure individual that saved Israel from destruction. Maury?
A man by the name of Max Fisher, which I'm sure 99% of the people watching the show have never heard of before. Max Fisher was a Detroit-based patriotic American Jew who was very close to Nixon. Now, Nixon, as was found out in the tapes later on, was a notorious anti-Semite. But here Israel had, Golda Meir, who was Prime Minister of Israel, had promised Nixon that this time, if there was another confrontation, Israel would not jump the gun. Israel would not be preemptive in attacking Syria and Egypt. Syria and Egypt have made a pact that this was 6 days after the 1967 Six-Day War, which Israel had won like a blitzkrieg, and they were ready to pounce on Israel. They had a anti-aircraft SAM missile, which the Russians had provided. Everything was set for them to crush Israel. Israel thought the Air Force would save the day, but the SAM missiles were shooting them down like ducks in a pond, and consequently Israel was on its last legs. Only about 3 or 4 days into this, what they call the Yom Kippur War, because it was based on Israel's holiest day. And Nixon didn't know what to do, or claimed he didn't know what he could do. Max Fisher was a great friend of Nixon, so great that Nixon had promised him any job in the government that he wanted would be his. He came to see the president and he said, "Mr. President, you must do one thing for me, and you'll go down in history, and it's my God-given objective. You must empty out the arsenal of American guns, ships, planes in Heidelberg, Germany." He did, and that's what turned the tide. Without the additional planes, without the additional guns, without the additional tanks, and with, by the way, General Sharon sweeping over the Suez Canal and cutting off the Egyptian army, all this came about because of one man. I talked to his daughter, who happened to live out here, and she said, well, there were other people involved, but he was the one that had the influence to walk into the Oval Office.
And if he didn't, you think Nixon would have not made that move?
I can't say he wouldn't have, but it might have been too late. I think the very fact...
That's what makes the great thing about history, is that you can Monday morning quarterback it forever.
Whether you believe it's providence or whatever you believe in, the very fact that Max Fisher, a wealthy Detroit businessman, had the power to go in to Nixon and say, you must do it now.
And God's people are saved once again.
That's exactly correct.
That wraps up another edition of The World Report. If you want to see the show again or catch a segment that you missed, the easiest way is just go to our website, theworldreport.org. For Maury Beschloss and all those exceptional folks in the U.S. Armed Forces who volunteer to keep us safe, I'm Scott Crowfoot. God willing, we'll see each other again.